name is Jeremiah Jackson. Welcome to my car tour featuring car 4667, coming to you live, sort of, from Ellensburg, Washington, which, if you're not familiar with Washington, happens to be right smack dab in the middle of the state, and also about 110 miles away from Toby's shop in Redmond, which has proven to be an invaluable resource. Um, so I bought this car not running, which I'd like to talk to you a little bit about today, involving some of the things I had to do to get this car running, and also just kind of show off some of the other work I've had to do in my 2 years of ownership. So we're going to move from the rear of the car forward, I think, in this presentation. So if you'll follow me around to the back of the car, we'll start there and continue on. So when I brought home the DeLorean, the previous owner parked it because, and the way he worded it was, he went out one day to start it and the thing was dead as a doornail. So he bought another battery, put it in, and it didn't make any change. And he said at this point in time, he's like, you know what? It's become too unreliable. I'm not a mechanic. He's the first person to tell you that. It just needs to go somewhere where it can get the attention it deserves. And that's where I come in, a person who's had quite a few years of experience in the automotive world. I brought it home and immediately went to work on it. Now, it turns out the reason it wouldn't start was all the grounds were corroded. The battery ground wire, the grounds at the engine, at the top of the engine, which I'll show you here in a minute. Everything was corroded. You'd stick the key in and turn it on and you'd get dash lights, but that's all you'd get. As soon as you tried to turn the key, everything would just go dead, and that's a classic symptom of bad grounds. And so I started working my way from there. So I'll open up the back and show you a couple things that I've done back there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so here we have the engine compartment for 4667, which my little utility light works, which I had to fix. So we have a little bit of light back here. But after getting this car running, the very first thing I had to do was replace the valve cover gasket under the AC compressor because it just started dumping oil. And this was a car that was running and driving before it sat for 1.5 years. And then the very next thing that went was the water pump. This was before I even got the car out of the garage. The water pump failed and started dumping coolant all over the place. Now, I wanted to point out, I'm very big into parts availability, and the vendors do a great job, but I converted this over to run the Volvo water pump with the bolt-on pulley because they're more readily available from the auto parts stores. As opposed to the DeLorean pump, and other than that, there's really no functional difference. In the process, I actually managed to break my thermotime switch, which led me to start doing upgrades from David McKean, which I'm sure you've heard his name before, but he offers a lot of great upgrades, and 4667 at this point actually has his RPM relay, his hot start relay, the relay ground bus, and then I've also done his microprocessor controlled idle computer. The other upgrade that I did was the alternator is a Saturn alternator that you'll read about on the forums, because my original alternator was actually one that I believe somebody had rebuilt and changed over to basically a one-wire alternator, which, if you're not familiar with that term, the alternator actually does not switch on until it reaches a certain RPM. And I noticed that every morning I'd have to fire up the car and basically jump on the throttle and rev it up to about 2000 RPM to get the alternator to kick on, which didn't interest me at all. So I upgraded to the Saturn alternator, which most auto parts stores stock, so it's just kind of another nice safety precaution. So back inside the car, wanted to talk a couple things that I did just to make the car a little bit more comfortable. Although one of the things I did end up doing is bolting down the roof box. It had actually come completely unglued at the rear, I found, which led me to redo the headliners, because you have to take those out to do it. The seats were pretty badly damaged, so we've got some new L-seat covers installed. I also did new window regulators and repaired both the dome lights. So we got all those working, and we have actually got LED bulbs in the dome lights and in the doors. I like the car to be relatively stock appearing, but anything that I can do to really bring it up to the current day and age electronically is something that I think is really important. I had to do all the electrical updates outlined in the TSBs behind the seat. So a couple other small notes. You might have noticed this little jacket on this hose here. That is just simply insurance to make sure that my belt does not cut into my hose at all. Because I drive my car, it's not uncommon for me to drive this to work a couple days a week, or I'll drive it to the grocery store. I really did not buy it to sit around. And I also actually ended up doing the passenger side valve cover, and I actually did a full valve adjustment when I had it all apart, because you're in there, so you might as well do it. I'm also trying to show you that down in here is a DeLorean Performance Industries dual exhaust and header system that I was able to pick up from a member on DMC Talk, used for a good deal, I think. This car suffered from really bad exhaust leaks after I got it running, and went through the trouble to tear everything out and put that in, because I knew that I wanted it to sound and perform a little bit better than what it did originally, and I'm very happy with everything there. About the only upgrades I've done up front, other than straightening the fascia by doing the gluing in this, I actually use stainless. I urethane stainless to the underside of the top of the bumper. I converted it over to H4 LEDs, and I also got the little insert pieces from DeLorean Go, which I really like because mine were missing. And that pretty much rounds out the front of the vehicle. It's actually been sitting for a couple weeks because I needed a new rack, which is sitting on the floor waiting for me to get time to install. But other than that, I'm making good progress every day. So. Alright, guys and girls, well, I think that's about all I have for you. Hopefully you learned something from this. If you have any questions, hopefully I can answer them for you. I am definitely a car person. If there isn't anything car related to talk about at a dinner party, I usually run out of stuff to say pretty quickly. But I've found that at the DeLorean get-togethers, I can usually carry on a conversation for quite a while. Probably a lot longer than most. But anyway, hope you all have a good one, and talk to you soon.